Verify ready for launch. FTS.
FTS go.
Props go. AVI.
AVI's go.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
We are getting ready to launch our Maxar 3 mission from Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy Space Center in Florida. While we usually have great views for our launch coverage, and unfortunately for our webcast and those of you joining us from the launch site, we have got a ton of fog today. While that's not great for viewing, we do have good news for launch. Weather is green for liftoff, and we are currently tracking less than a 5% chance of weather violation at our target liftoff time of 6:13 p.m. Eastern from Launch Complex 39A. My name is Ronnie Foreman, and I am a Senior Sales Manager here at SpaceX, joining you now from Hawthorne, California. Welcome to our live launch coverage of Maxar 3, SpaceX's 15th mission of 2025. Today, we're delivering 2 next-generation Worldview Legion satellites to orbit for Maxar intelligence. SpaceX launched the first set of Worldview Legion spacecraft in May of 2024, and the 3rd and 4th satellites in August 2024. Today's Maxar 3 mission will deliver the final 5th and 6th satellites to complete the first block of Maxar's next-generation Worldview Legion constellation. The additional satellites will ensure that Maxar continues to have the most advanced Earth imaging constellation on orbit for years to come. At T-minus 8.5 minutes, everything is looking good for an on-time liftoff. The range is ready to support, and as I mentioned earlier, the weather continues to be green, despite the fact that we don't have a great view of our launch pad, with less than a 5% chance of violation at our target T0 time. That being said, if for any reason we are unable to launch today, we do have a backup opportunity available tomorrow at 5:42 p.m. Eastern. Now with that, let's take a moment to learn a bit more about the Falcon 9 rocket supporting today's launch. Falcon 9 is the world's first orbital-class reusable rocket. Reusability allows SpaceX to refly the most expensive parts of the rocket, which in turn drives down the cost of access to space. The 2-stage rocket stands 229 feet tall behind that fog and generates more than 1.7 million pounds of thrust at sea level. The bottom 2/3 of the vehicle is the first stage, also referred to as the booster. After liftoff, Falcon 9's first stage accelerates through the thicker parts of the Earth's atmosphere and into space using 9 Merlin M1D engines. After stage separation, today the booster will land back on Earth at Landing Zone 1, just down the road from the launch pad at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. The particular booster supporting today's mission will be returning to Earth for its 4th time. Above the first stage is the second stage, powered by a single Merlin vacuum engine that ignites after it separates from the first stage. Although quite similar to the Merlin engines on stage 1, the Merlin vacuum engine, or MVAC for short,
Engine chill has started.
There's confirmation of engine chill on board Falcon 9. The MVAC on board the second stage is optimized for the vacuum of space, and that's what will carry the 2 Worldview Legion satellites to orbit. The second stage engine can be restarted multiple times, which we'll have a great view of today, to place multiple payloads into different orbits. Located above the second stage is the payload fairing, which is the large barrel structure at the top of the rocket, which we're getting views of on your screen right now. At 17...
Stage 1, fuel load complete.
There's confirmation that we've completed loading fuel on board stage 1. At 17 feet in diameter, that carbon composite payload fairing is what will protect our satellites on their way to orbit today. The 2 halves are then jettisoned approximately 3 minutes into flight. The fairing halves supporting today's launch are both also flight proven, with one half flying for its 23rd time and the other for its 21st. After separation from the second stage, both fairing halves will return to Earth again to be retrieved by our recovery ship, Bob, which is currently stationed in the Atlantic Ocean. Now, while our countdown continues to go smoothly, let's take a look at this short video from our customer, Maxar Intelligence.
In a world of constant change, speed matters, accuracy matters, security matters, and timing is everything. That's why we built Worldview Legion. We've already had 2 successful launches that put 4 satellites into our growing constellation, delivering unmatched precision, but our mission wasn't complete. Today's launch adds 2 new satellites and unleashes the full potential. Up to 15 daily revisits of critical locations, 6 million square kilometers of secure imagery, trusted intelligence delivered in near real time when decisions matter most. This isn't just about seeing our world. It's about understanding it, securing it, and shaping a better tomorrow. Worldview Legion. Intelligence you can trust, precision you can act on.
Now, at just about T-minus 4.5 minutes, Falcon 9 is tracking no issues, and our payloads continue to be healthy. There's confirmation that Strongback retract has started. The Strongback, or the transporter erector, you can just see on the bottom right-hand side of your screen there. That's the large truss structure next to Falcon 9. And we've been using that in part to help load propellants onboard Falcon 9 since T-minus 35 minutes. We're targeting to finish that fuel loading at T-minus 2 minutes. Now, again, the range is ready to support, and weather is looking good for our liftoff time today. But if for some reason we do not launch today, we do have a backup opportunity tomorrow at 5:42 p.m. Eastern. In just about 10 seconds, we'll have the TE fully reclined away from Falcon 9. The first stage is connected to a launch mount at the base of the TE, and that structure is hinged to allow that retraction away from the rocket in preparation for launch. We've already heard it called the Strongback by the launch team over the nets. We use the TE, or the Strongback, both to roll the rocket out to the pad and raise it into its vertical launch position. The TE is also what we use to route the vehicle's fluids, power, and telemetry umbilicals from the ground systems to the rocket and the payload until liftoff. Now, at this point in the countdown, both the first and second stages are nearly fully loaded with 1 million pounds of kerosene fuel and liquid oxygen. Both the first and second stage should finish loading propellant about a minute apart from each other. We're standing by for that confirmation on board Stage 1.
Stage 1, LOX load complete.
Right on schedule, and we are expecting that fuel completion call for Stage 2 at about T-minus 2 minutes. The slight venting that you can hear right now is totally normal. We do periodically vent the chilled gas from above the surface of the LOX tank overboard to maintain pressure in the tank as needed. Ordinarily, during a launch, you can see those white clouds form around the vehicle, but today the best indication that we have that everything is moving ahead smoothly is, of course, the countdown and timeline at the bottom of your screen and those healthy sounds from Falcon 9.
Stage 2, LOX load complete.
There's that confirmation that liquid oxygen loading is complete on board our second stage. The next major milestone we're standing by for will be at T-minus 60 seconds, when Falcon 9 will enter startup mode. This means that the rocket's autonomous internal flight computers will take over the launch countdown. Then, just inside of T-minus 2 seconds, we'll light those M1D engines for liftoff. At this time, the 2 Worldview Legion satellites continue to be healthy, and the Falcon 9 team is tracking no issues on the rocket.
Ground gas closeouts.
Confirmation of gas closeouts from our mission control team. Weather is still looking green, and the range is ready to support our T0 of 6:13 p.m. Eastern. And with that, we are proceeding into the final 1 minute and 10 seconds of our terminal count.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
Confirmation of startup mode. And now we are standing by for our launch director to give our final go for launch.
Launch director, go for launch.
So with that, in just under T-minus 40 seconds, all systems are go for the launch of Falcon 9 and our 2 Worldview Legion satellites.
T-minus 30 seconds. T-minus 15. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Liftoff. Go Maxar, go Falcon.
Vehicle is pitching downrange.
So in case you are just joining us, we are 32 seconds and counting, and Falcon 9 has successfully lifted off from Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy Space Center, carrying 2 Worldview Legion satellites for Maxar intelligence. In just a few seconds, we'll throttle the
Power
engine.
and telemetry nominal.
Confirmation there that everything's on the right track. And right now we're preparing to throttle the engines down ahead of max Q, or the period of maximum aerodynamic pressure on the rocket.
Falcon 9 is supersonic.
With that call out, we know that Falcon 9 is moving faster than the speed of sound.
Max Q.
And there's confirmation of max Q. Now, during ascent, we tilt the engines. The technical term for this is called gimbaling, and that turns the rocket horizontally in what we call a gravity turn. Right now, the rocket is still going up, but we're also heading horizontally away from the launch pad. Our rocket
MVAC chill.
There's confirmation of MVAC chill on board our second stage. Now, our rocket needs to go about 17,500 miles per hour horizontally in order to avoid being pulled back down to Earth and reach orbit. You can keep an eye on that stage 1 telemetry in the bottom of your screen as we move toward that target insertion speed. Next, we'll have several events coming up in quick succession, and we should hear and see all of those called out by Mission Control, starting with main engine cutoff, or MECO, then stage separation, SES-1, first stage boost back burn, and fairing separation. MECO is where we will shut down all 9 M1D engines on board the first stage, followed quickly thereafter by stage separation, when the first and second stages of Falcon 9 separate from one another, and then we'll turn on
Main
the
engine cutoff.
MVAC engine
Stage
for the first
separation
time.
confirmed.
MVAC ignition.
Stage 1 boost back startup.
So we have great views on your screen right now and confirmation from Mission Control that we've had MECO, Stage SEP, and SES-1. We also heard the call out, and on the left-hand side of your screen, we have great views of our boost back burn, which is what's currently putting the booster on a trajectory to head back toward Earth and touch down at landing zone 1. Next up, the fairing will jettison away from the second stage, as it's no longer needed now that we're in space, and the payloads no longer need that aerothermal protection.
Fairing separation confirmed.
Right on schedule. Those fairing halves are now headed back to Earth to be recovered by our ocean recovery ship, Bob.
Stage 1 boost back shutdown.
And there's confirmation of our stage 1 boost back burn shutdown. Now, at just about T plus 3.5 minutes into today's mission, the next major milestone we're standing by for is our first stage entry burn. Getting some great views on the left-hand side of your screen of that grid fin deployment right now, too. Those hypersonic grid fins are the primary mechanical mechanism by which we steer the rocket on its way back to Earth.
Nominal trajectories.
Nominal trajectories there for both our first and second stages. Again, in case you are just joining us, right now our first stage is on its way back to Landing Zone 1 at Kennedy Space Center, while Stage 2 is on its way to orbit to deploy 2 WorldView Legion satellites for our customer Maxar Intelligence. To start the entry burn at about T plus 6 minutes, we'll relight the 3 of the M1D engines on board Stage 1, starting with the center engine, known as E9, followed shortly after by E1 and E5, which is similar to pumping the brakes to slow down the vehicle as it passes back into the Earth's atmosphere. We need to slow down to reduce reentry forces, which then helps us to recover and reuse that first stage. During the entry burn, Falcon 9 is decelerating by firing those Merlin engines, but we're still moving really fast. This causes the vehicle to fly through Merlin's exhaust gases. Great views of it on your screen there right now. Those exhaust gases are also known as the rocket's plume. That in turn deposits a layer of soot on the vehicle surface. The soot comes from the carbon-based fuel that Falcon 9 uses, and with each flight, the soot builds up a little more on the outside of the vehicle, giving it that flight-proven look. We are standing by with these incredible tracking shots for that entry burn begin at T plus 6 minutes and 11 seconds. Of course, reusability is key to lowering the cost of spaceflight, which enables more investments in critical scientific research. The Falcon 9 first stage supporting today's mission is about to perform this entry burn for the 4th time. And of course, meanwhile, up in space, our Stage 2 continues to look good, and we'll keep bringing you those MVAC engine views as we have them.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
There's confirmation of entry burn begin.
Stage 1 entry burn shutdown.
And
Stage
confirmation
1 FTS is saved.
of entry burn shutdown. The engines on board the first and second stage are actually pretty similar. They're just optimized differently. The Merlins on the first stage are optimized for sea level, and these achieve 190,000 pounds of thrust each during both ascent and descent. At liftoff, Falcon 9's first stage has thrust greater than 5 747 airplanes at full power. The MVAC engine, which
Nominal
we have
trajectories.
a great view of on the right-hand side of your screen, and confirmation there that everything's on a nominal trajectory, has a much wider
Stage
nozzle.
1 transonic.
That wider nozzle allows us to be optimized to 220,500 pounds of thrust in the vacuum of space.
Stage 2 terminal guidance.
Stage 1 landing burn.
Stage 2 FTS is saved.
We're hearing that sonic boom of
Stage
reentry.
1 landing leg deploy. Stage 1 landing confirmed.
And confirmation that our Falcon 9
MVAC
booster
shutdown.
has touched back down on Landing Zone 1 at Kennedy Space Center, and that we have had successful MVAC shutdown on board Stage 2. This was the 4th launch and landing for this first stage, and this landing marks SpaceX's 404th recovery of a SpaceX orbital class rocket, including
Nominal orbit insertion.
first stage landings for Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy. And with that confirmation, we also know that Stage 2 is on a good orbit up in space. So with that, Stage 2 is embarking on its first coast phase, after which the MVAC engine will relight for a second time at about T plus 43 minutes. That will be followed by our first payload deploy today. We're going to take a break and leave you with some nice space tunes, but we'll see you back here in about 30 minutes.
look at a rocket from Mars and you just boggle the mind. And the technology caught up, didn't it?
Welcome back to our live coverage of the Maxar 3 mission. We have had a great mission so far today with an on-time liftoff at 6:13 p.m. Eastern from Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy Space Center. After a successful stage separation, the first stage returned to Earth with a precision landing at Landing Zone 1 in Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. Now we are minutes away from our expected payload deploy, but first, the MVAC engine on the second stage will reignite and shut down for the second time, so we're standing by for those callouts from Mission Control. The MVAC engine on your screen right now is on board Stage 2 of Falcon 9 and is capable of relight to deploy multiple payloads to multiple orbits on the same mission. And again, if you are just joining us today we are delivering 2 next-generation Worldview Legion satellites to orbit for our customer, Maxar Intelligence. Great views of SES-2 on your screen there, and we are expecting this burn to last about 20 seconds. Forgive me, 10 seconds.
Nominal orbit insertion.
There's confirmation from Mission Control that we've had nominal orbital insertion. SpaceX launched the first set of Worldview Legion satellites in May 2024 and the third and fourth satellites in August 2024. Today's Maxar 3 mission will deliver the final fifth and sixth satellites to complete the first block of Maxar's next-generation Worldview Legion constellation. The fifth satellite will be the first to be deployed, and we're expecting that at T plus 46 minutes and 57 seconds. Our customer today, Maxar Intelligence, is a geospatial intelligence company that delivers geospatial information for consumer navigation, mission planning, disaster response, defense intelligence, and more. The Maxar Legion constellation supports national security, defense, and humanitarian response for the U.S. and allied governments. When complete with 4 satellites in mid-inclination orbit and 6 satellites in sun-synchronous orbit, Maxar will be able to revisit some locations on Earth up to 15 times per day with unprecedented imagery resolution. We are standing by expecting that payload deploy in just about 2 minutes, and of course getting great views of MVAC up in space as we await for that payload deploy signal from our onboard flight computer and confirmation from Mission Control. As always, you can also follow along with our Stage 2 telemetry in the bottom of your screen. And you can see right now we're holding an orbit, which we heard called out from Mission Control that we're in the right orbit for this deployment as we prepare for that deployment of the 5th Worldview Legion satellite. Just about a minute until we're expecting that payload deployment call from Mission Control. Getting really awesome views on the left-hand side of your screen there of the curvature of the Earth behind the MVAC engine skirt. As I mentioned earlier in the broadcast today, the MVAC engine skirt is one of the things that helps us to optimize the performance of this engine in the vacuum of space. MVAC, of course, is short for Merlin Vacuum Engine, which is the engine on board Stage 2. And it's quite similar to the 9 engines on board the booster of Falcon 9, which moved the rocket through the Earth's atmosphere prior to stage separation.
Maxar's 5th Worldview Legion spacecraft deployment confirmed.
So there we heard the call out, and you can see successful deployment of that 5th Worldview Legion satellite on your screen. The second Worldview Legion satellite for today's mission will be deployed at about T+1 hour and 49 minutes. So with that, we'll take a short break and return for our third relight of that MVAC engine on the second stage at T+1 hour and 7 minutes. So we'll see you back here in just a few. Welcome back to the Maxar 3 mission. Before that last break, we saw the successful deployment of our first payload for this mission, and now we're moments away from a third ignition of the MVAC engine on board the second stage. This roughly 10-second burn will be followed by another shutdown of MVAC, also known as Second Engine Cutoff 3, or SECO 3. Right now, we're standing by for those callouts, expecting them in just about 10 seconds. Great views of SES-3 up there in space with the Earth behind our MVAC engine. And confirmation of shutdown. With that, we're about 35 minutes away from a fourth ignition of the MVAC engine on the second stage, which will carry the payload to the orbit needed to deploy
Nominal orbit insertion.
the spacecraft. And there's confirmation of nominal orbital insertion. Again, that second deployment is our second and final deployment of today's mission. We'll take another break here for our next coast phase, but we'll see you back in about 34 minutes.
We sat there, 25th century AD. We sat there and looked at the rockets from Mars, and you just boggled the mind. And the technology caught up, didn't it?
And we are back for our ongoing coverage of the Maxar 3 mission, which is currently in progress. Our customer for today's mission is Maxar Intelligence, and we're currently coming up on the fourth relight of the MVAC engine on board the second stage, our last burn before our second and final satellite deployment of today's mission. SpaceX launched the first set of WorldView Legion satellites in May 2024, and the third and fourth satellites in August 2024. Today's Maxar 3 mission delivers the fifth and sixth satellites to complete the first block of Maxar's WorldView Legion constellation. The fifth satellite was the first to be deployed today, so we have just one more to go. Right now, we are standing by for second engine start 4 of our MVAC engine on board stage 2. Great views on your screen there of second engine start 4. And now, of course, we're standing by for a call out that we are in a
Nominal orbit insertion.
right on schedule, nominal orbit. With that confirmation of the fourth relight and correct orbital insertion for this MVAC engine burn, we're going to take one more break before the final satellite for today's mission is deployed. We'll see you back here in just about 5 minutes.
sat there, 25th century AD. We sat there and looked at a rocket from Mars, and you just boggled the mind and mind and mind and mind. And the technology caught up, didn't it?
Good evening and welcome back to the Maxar 3 mission. It has been a great mission so far today, and we are about 1 minute away from our second and final payload deploy. If you're just joining us, today we are delivering 2 next-generation Worldview Legion satellites to orbit for our customer Maxar Intelligence. The first deployment occurred just after T plus 46 minutes, and after that we saw a third and fourth ignition of the MVAC engine on the second stage in preparation for this final payload deploy. We're currently standing by for a call out and hopefully some great visuals of our final satellite deployment.
Maxar's 6th Worldview Legion spacecraft is now deployed.
With that confirmation and great visual, you can see the second successful deployment of this mission today. That will wrap up our live coverage of the Maxar 3 mission today, SpaceX's 15th launch of 2025. SpaceX launched the first set of Worldview Legion satellites in May 2024, and the third and fourth satellites in August 2024. Tonight's Maxar 3 mission delivered the final fifth and sixth satellites to complete the first block of the Worldview Legion constellation. All of us here at SpaceX want to thank our customer Maxar Intelligence for entrusting us with their spacecraft. We also want to thank the Eastern Range and Federal Aviation Administration for supporting today's launch. If you're interested in even more launch coverage, be sure to check out spacex.com/launches for the most up-to-date information. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you again soon.